Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I am once again back to asking the age-old question, how does this Halo game hold up after so many years? And today we are on to the classic Halo 3, which was originally released on the Xbox 360 all the way back in 2007. And just like my other two How Do These Halo Games Hold Up, I'll be talking about the MCC port of Halo 3, and that's the one you'll be seeing in the video. Though, other than a higher resolution and more frames, it is very similar to the original Xbox 360 game, since it sadly never technically got an anniversary edition. Well, anyway, let's get into the first next generation Halo game. Halo 3 takes place pretty much exactly after Halo 2, when we see the Forerunner ship without the Prophet of Truth and Master Chief run coming into the Earth's atmosphere, and we see something fall from it. It turns out that this was the Master Chief himself and crash lands into the jungle. And after Jonathan's Marines find Master Chief and revive him, we finally see the two main characters from the previous games meet up for the first time. And Master Chief immediately tries to kill the Arbiter, and in this short interaction is all you're really going to get out of them. Just short moments between them really, nothing else, which is honestly kind of a shame. And if you didn't already know this, in Halo 3 you can only play as the Arbiter if you are player 2 in co-op, and I find this extremely disappointing since the Arbiter was the most interesting part of Halo 2's story for me. And this leads me to my biggest problem with Halo 3's campaign. It feels like an honestly step back from Halo 2. To me, Halo 3 feels more like a sequel to Halo Combat Evolved than it does to Halo 2. It's pretty much basic in its overall plot, though that's not to say Halo 3 is a bad game at all. Like I said, it just feels more basic. Anyway, in the previous games, you can only have two players play together in a campaign, and they would basically be copies of whoever player 1 was, and this is the first game to let these players be totally different characters from each other. Player 1 would be Master Chief, 2 would be the Arbiter, and 3 and 4 would be a Red and Blue Elite. I'm sure they have canon names, but I'm not sure what they are. And it's cool that every player is a different character, at least visually, to distinguish themselves from each other. However, these characters don't affect the story whatsoever, and in my playthrough of Halo 3, I did this for the channel. I only played the single player of Halo 3, and when playing single player, the Arbiter will come and go from your party, and in some missions even do something completely separate from the Master Chief. So what I'm trying to get at here is playing co-op kinda messes up the narrative of the game, which is kinda weird, but honestly, nothing game breaking whatsoever. Okay, before I talk about spoilers to this 15-year-old game, I'll talk about the overall gameplay. Halo 3 keeps almost all of, if not everything that was in Halo 2 in terms of add gameplay features so we can hijack vehicles and dual wield. However, to me, the dual wielding in this game felt like a holdover from Halo 2. Like, they didn't even have anything to make it interesting, but they felt that it needed to be there. And I think you can feel this, especially when dual wielding never makes a return in future games after this. The only noticeable things that Bungie did with it in Halo 3 were add some more guns that could be dual wield, and making sure you can't carry two needlers at the same time because that was apparently too good. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of dual wielding if you haven't noticed by now, though sometimes I will dual wield and do a lot of damage, so who knows, maybe I should just use it more often, and every time I do that in my Halo mod videos, I always realize how good they are, so who kinda knows. Bungie also adds some equipment in this game, and the way it works in Halo 3 is that there are many different types of equipment that you can pick up, like a bubble shield, a drop shield, man that's a lot of shields, or you can just pick up a flare and blind yourself for a good old 30 seconds. Yeah, other than the shields, regeneration field, and invincibility, I don't really care for all the equipment all that much. I mean, in multiplayer, and I'm sure stuff like the radar jammer is useful, but in campaign, does it even affect the brutes at all, or is it just a practical joke for using it? I guess that the blue EMP thing is pretty useful, but equally harmful to the player. I also really like the Sentinel Helper one that you get in the final mission. It's also really cool when it turns on you after that event. Oh, something that I really like about the equipment in the game is that the brutes are also able to use pretty much all of it for themselves, so it can really change how certain battles turn out. Okay, I've mentioned the brutes a few times, so I should probably talk about the enemies of this game. Unless I'm forgetting something, the Covenant don't have any new types of enemies to add, but they keep all of them from Halo 2. Oh, except for the elites. They are on our side for now. The Flood really branched out this time by having the usual suspects, and there's also this big brute form, tank forms, I don't know the name. And there are these ones I call the Spider Sniper forms. I think they're pretty cool additions. The Sentinels sadly are the only ones to actually remove enemy types without adding anything new, unless we count the equipment and a certain boss. But I don't in this case. Overall, I think these enemies were really good in this game. I think you should expect that though, since we're 3 games into the series, so I'd hope Bungie would absolutely refine these enemies to the best they can be. I think the enemies are all fairly fun to fight, and nothing too annoying, though the Cyber Juggles can sometimes go somewhere else sometimes, because man, those guys are annoying. Okay, with that I should probably talk about the story of this game, huh? Okay, so it starts out with Cortana talking about choosing a Spartan, and then we see Master Chief jump out of a ship from Halo 2 and crash land in the jungle in Africa for Johnson and the Marines to find him and wake him up. Then the Arbiter shows up and says we are friends now and let's stop Truth. So he fights through the jungle. You gotta save that captured Johnson because he got captured. Then we fly back to the Crow's Nest base on a Pelican. We finally see Miranda Keyes and she's apparently in this game. And then Truth hacks us and does a call outpost, and then you basically play through the worst level in the game. Then, after refusing a bomb and riding an elevator out of there, you get to drive through African highways and figure out the Covenant are digging up something. And they have some really good digging tools, so we gotta hurry. Then Master Chief finds a Scarab, which is pretty cool, and drives around some rocket marines. Then he destroys an anti-air turret, so the UNSC can fly around. Finally, the Covenant dig up a portal to the sky, and all fly through it. But the humans and elites can't follow them because the Flood crash land on Earth, and the Master Chief has to find out what's on the ship, so he literally goes through the whole last level, but backwards, and actually fights the Flood. And when he finally reaches the ship, he finds Cortana, or rather a message Cortana sent, and also 343 Guilty Spark. Yep, he's also in this game too. Anyways, we take them both back to the Covenant ship after they start glassing Africa, and they leave Lord Hood behind to follow the Covenant through the portal to the Ark. And after basically 24 days of flying through the portal and exchanging lots of weapons, we drop down to a desert and go through lots of sand to see the Ford on the Dawn almost run us over and go through Forerunner ruins until we fight this Brute Chieftain in an honestly pretty cool fight. Then we learn where Truth is and have one final effort to stop him, and this is honestly super cool and also one of the most iconic cutscenes with Pelicans and Phantoms painted green side by side to show how much the humans and elites are actually working together. And then once the Arbiter and Master Chief clear their towers, Johnson gets captured. Again. I think it's like the 3rd time in the series and 2nd time just in this game. Come on, Johnson, step it up, man. So we pick up the slack, and then the Flood come back, but this time in High Charity, and we fight through them until we gotta make it to where Truth is and have to fight 2 Scarabs. Then we walk in, and the Flood become our allies for a bit. Then while Truth tries to get Johnson and stuff, the Ring's Miranda Keyes comes in and just can't do what needs to be done. Then gets killed by Truth anyway. Then Truth just makes Johnson activate the rings, which is like the 2nd time in the series that this kind of thing has happened. Like, why don't you just do that to begin with? Anyway, we get to Truth and the Arbiter kills him, and we get to stop the rings. End of the game, right? Nope. The Gravemind turns on us, and we have to fight back through the Flood and find out that Alpha Halo got remade, and we'll use this to destroy the Flood on the Ark. But first, we gotta go save Cortana, so we do. Now for the final mission in this trilogy, we fight through with lots of Flood up this tower while Johnson occasionally helps us out. Then we make it through the control room. 343 doesn't want to rush this game out, but Johnson makes him, so 343 shoots him with a laser. Then we kill 343 and Johnson goes out with a bang. Then we have to do a Warthog run and leave the ring in this cool segment, and then we make it to the ship, but it splits apart and the Arbiter gets back to Earth and the Master Chief and Cortana are stuck in space for seemingly ever. And that was the story of Halo 3, so yeah, not all that complicated, which is a shame because I like the more complex story that Halo 2 brought together. But hey, Halo 3 is pretty similar to CE in multiple ways, so it kinda works out in the end. And man, Halo 3 does a good job with one-liners.
Got an escape plan?
Thought I'd try shooting my way out. Mix things up a little.
You were weak, and gods must be strong. I am truth, the voice of the Covenant. So, you must be silenced.
And some of the shots in the game are amazing too.
We hit these 3 generators, and the barrier will fall?
A small section, yes.
Good enough. Johnson, drop the chief at the first generator, then head to the 3rd. The elites will punch right down the middle.
Roger that.
Charlie, Foxtrot, Tower 1 approach.
approach is active AAA.
Mayday! I can't control her!
Pelican down! Pelican down!
Brace yourselves, we're going in a little hot!
Replacement. The ring you destroyed.
Okay, and I should probably talk about some of the character deaths. And yeah, some of them are fine, I guess, like Thief for 3, Guilty Spark, and Truth makes sense because they are villains, and with them adds meaning to the story and then the world they're in. But like Johnson and Keys, why did they have to die? I think in an interview or something, Marty said that they were added in for shock value, which in my opinion is like the worst way to add death to a story. And I get it, this was probably the last point in the timeline Bungie was ever going to touch, so to them it didn't really matter, but dang, it matters to me. And then I gotta say, I'm really glad that Bungie kinda left the ending up to potentially be continued instead of just ending it there. And I am glad that Halo did continue after Bungie. Okay, and now I'll talk about the graphics of Halo 3, because as you can tell, it holds up extremely well. I mean, this game came out in 2007, and the art style keeps the game looking so nice. And something that I will always love about Halo 3 are the mini skyboxes that just look amazing in this game. I mean, look at this one, you can see the Milky Way galaxy, and the skybox in the last Warthog run is just amazing. I mean, what else can you say? But something that I have to say, and it could just be because Halo 3, like Halo 2, was kind of rushed. I mean, some of the missions were even cut out of the game. But some of the few last cutscenes in the game, some of the backgrounds look extremely like paintings, and I'm sure it's because they didn't want to model out all this stuff. But I mean, especially this one, it looks like the Master Chief's flying a Banshee into an image. But at least the image looks good, you know? Also, this game doesn't have traditional boss fights like the other games, or even Halo 2, but it does have scarabs, and this one, Brew Chieftain, I guess, but I really want to talk about the scarabs and how good they are for boss fights. Unlike Halo 2, to beat a scarab, you don't have to kill all the elites that are driving it, you actually have to blow it up. And in the 3 occasions that you actually get to fight them, I think I handled them all in different ways, which is cool because it's just not point and shoot until it dies. You can have some fun with it and try to do different things every time. Like go back in the traditional way and punch the back, or fly up in a hornet, or blow up the legs to jump onto the scarab. They're just great enemies. Also, they don't have health bars that make you shoot at them forever, unlike some other first-person shooter bosses I won't name. Also, the explosions are really great too. And another thing I should probably talk about are the random times when Cortana and eventually the Gravemind will actually talk to you during gameplay in these like weird sequences, or I don't know if it's like Master Chief remembering what Cortana said, or if she's somehow like talking to him. But I don't like those sequences very much. I mean, I like the lines that they'll say, but they stop your gameplay for however long the line will go, and you can't even like walk fast. They'll literally put you down to a halt. And it's just so annoying, like just let me walk quicker, please. You don't have to stop the gameplay in the middle of it without even like a cool cutscene. It's just, oh man, you got all this blue stuff and these images flashing. Even though I like the lines that they say, I think they could have handled that in a much better fashion, and then it is obvious why they never tried to do something in the future games even like remotely like this. And I should probably say that the voice actors once again do an amazing job. Like Steve Downes, Jen Taylor, Keith David are back, and they're bringing it their all. I feel like they do very well. But then I think the voice actors for Miranda Keyes and the Prophet of Truth have changed, but they also do very well. But overall, all the voice actors I feel do a very good job. And I don't know why I always wait until the last minute to talk about this, but the music is great in this game, just like the previous two. Now the last few games soundtracks had like one instrument. Halo CE had strings, Halo 2 had the electric guitar, and in Halo 3 it's the piano. And I think after this game, just hearing that one piano note really lets you know it's Halo. I mean, even in the E3 trailer for Halo Infinite, they had that one note playing, everyone got hyped. Also, some of the tracks on the OST are callbacks to the first game, but I gotta say it really works, and One Final Effort is just one of the best tracks in all of Halo, and I'm just wondering why it hasn't been redone in other games. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about with this game. Overall, pretty good, but honestly kind of lacking in some parts, more specifically the story and what they could have done with some characters, and also the Brutes having the biggest downgrade, like come on. But yeah, overall really fun and enjoyable time, and I can wholeheartedly recommend this game. It's one of the greats. and MCC is a great place to play it. So if you don't want to grab an original copy, play it on MCC. It's also on Steam. Oh, and you can let me know what you think of Halo 3 and maybe even some of the other Halo games. I will hopefully get to these games, to the future games in the future. We'll see, because this video took way too long for me to actually get out. But yeah, so thank you. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and goodbye.